Hey, what's going on everybody? Thanks again for joining me on another video. So the topic that we're going to take a look at in this video is IPTV right for you and what you should expect? We get a lot of customers and individuals asking about IPTV. What is it? What can they expect? And what's the experience like with it? And how does it stack up against the traditional cable and satellite services? So I've decided to make a video for you in this slide presentation to kind of just go over some of the ABCs of what IPTV or private IPTV is and what it is that you should expect. So we're going to cover a few topics here in this video. And some of the topics that we're going to look at is what exactly is IPTV, what are the requirements that you will need to have in order for you to be able to successfully run your service, what are the channel selections like, what's the picture quality like, what is the deal with stability and uptime, and of course we're going to wrap it up with cost. So to dive right into things, we're just going to take a look at exactly what IPTV is. So the term IPTV is actually an abbreviation for a much longer term, which is called Internet Protocol Television. And what that is that it refers to the delivery of television content over computer networks based on the logical Internet Protocol, or better known as IP, rather than the traditional terrestrial, satellite, or cable television formats. So again, IPTV really is just a short abbreviation for Internet Protocol Television, which is basically television that is delivered through the internet. The next thing that we're going to take a look at real quick are the requirements. Now, each person has a slightly different home environment, so therefore their home setup for their IPTV service will be a little bit different. So of course you have to have a set-top box, but where it becomes a little bit different and a little bit tricky from home to home and person to person is with internet connection. So what I recommend is having a minimum of at least 20 megabits per second internet connection, and that is directly wired into your box. So I know that there are various different internet services out there, various different internet service providers right across the globe. So you want to make sure that you do find a package that is at least 20 megabits per second and that you're able to plug your modem directly into your box. You're able to connect your box directly to your modem in order for you to get internet services. Now, there are those individuals that would like to connect to their internet via Wi-Fi, and some homes, depending on how it's set up, they have no choice but to connect to the internet via Wi-Fi, because maybe their television and their TV box is in another room than where their modem is or their router is located. So this is when getting a much more beefed up internet plan would make sense, and I'll explain in a bit. So what it is that I recommend if you are going to connect your box to the internet via Wi-Fi, what I recommend is getting at least 100 megabits per second wired in. The reason why I say that is it's largely believed that in order to run IPTV successfully, you would need at least 10 megabits per second. And the thing with Wi-Fi is that once you connect to Wi-Fi, even if you do have 100 megabits per second, your Wi-Fi connection strength is only about 10%, give or take, off that overall strength. Now, I know that there's 5 internet that gives you a little bit more output, but many people are still on DSL or with cable, and with that you get about 10%, like I said, give or take, strength that is being streamed directly to your box. So that means that if you have a 100 megabit per second internet package, that means that through Wi-Fi, you're only going to be getting about 10 megabits per second hitting your box. So that's why I recommend, if you are going to plug it in directly to the modem, then you will need to have at least 20 megabits per second. And of course, that gives you the extra buffer to be able to compensate in case there's a little bit of drop in speed. And like I said, if you are going to connect your box to the internet using Wi-Fi, it's probably best to get at least 100 megabits per second. Obviously, I recommend a little bit more than that, but minimum 100 megabits per second if you do plan on connecting your box to the internet using Wi-Fi. And of course, you do need a television with HDMI, because most of these new boxes, all they use is HDMI. Again, some of the requirements that it is that you will need is a set-top box, an internet connection, and again, what I require, or what I recommend, I should say, is at least 20 megabits per second if you are going to be plugging your box directly into the modem to connect to the internet. And if you are going to look to connect via Wi-Fi, get a package that is at least 100 megabits per second, so that way when it streams to your box, you're getting at least 10% of that. And of course, a TV with HDMI connection. The next thing we're going to take a look at is channel selections, and this is one of the main reasons why people get this kind of IPTV service, simply because of the large number of channels accessible to them. Now, typically in the private IPTV space, you will definitely get about 500 channels or more, and these will range from local channels all the way to international channels. There are of course services that offer more than 1,000, and there are even services that offer more than 2,000 channels. And I've seen some where it claims that they have up to 5,000 channels. Now that just gets really outrageous, but typically what you should expect as far as channel selections is at least anywhere between 500 to 1,500 channels. And basically what you're looking for is making sure that you find a provider that has what it is that you like to watch. So if a provider has, let's say for example, one of the popular news channels or one of the popular comedy networks, then you want to definitely take a look at those guys. If the other guys that are providing IPTV service doesn't offer those channels that it is that you're looking for, of course it makes no sense getting those services. So make sure you go ahead and figure out what it is that each provider is carrying, and if they are carrying your specific lineup of channel programming, or at least a large bulk of it, then it's something that you may want to take a look at. So again, if you're looking for a large selection of channels, then IPTV is definitely the way to go. All right, so the next thing that we're going to take a look at is picture quality. Now, many individuals that jump on IPTV believe that they're going to be getting the picture perfect, top-notch 1080p picture quality that they get from the big guys. However, when it comes to private IPTV, not saying that you can't get 1080p, but it's a lot more realistic to expect 720p or even standard definition. And standard definition is about 480p or 576p, depending on whether you're watching an NTSC versus a PAL type TV setup. There are those providers that will have channels at 1080p, but of course that comes at a cost. And I could talk about that a little bit later on in another video, but basically what we're taking a look at there is there's a lot more information being pushed through your internet, which is basically a single band technology, and things tend to slow down and crash once you get a large amount of information being pushed through this small channel. So that's why many providers now, they start to scale things back a little bit and just handle content at 720p and standard definition. Now, as internet speeds become faster, and as internet technologies become that much better, then we could in the future start expecting 1080p and even 4K content. So again, with private IPTV, don't expect crystal clear picture. You will notice a decrease in picture quality when you compare it to your standard cable or satellite service. All right, so the next thing that we're going to take a look at is stability and uptime. And many people get hung up over this whole stability and uptime thing. I'm going to say it right now. Stability for private IPTV is not as stable as you will get with the big guys, with their cable and their satellite service. And what you should do before you actually get started on any IPTV service is actually ask the provider about their overall uptime. And there are two basic uptimes and stability issues that we're going to take a look at here. One is channel stability and uptime, and then the other one is server stability and uptime. And basically what channel stability and uptime is, it speaks directly to that specific channel. How often is that channel online, and how stable is it? Does it stick? Does it freeze? Does it buffer? And I know that some of these issues may come as a direct result of your internet connection, but there are those services up there where the management of the channels just really isn't that great, so the stability and the uptime of these channels kind of lag. So you want to make sure that the channels, especially the ones that you're interested in, are actually stable, and that the uptime for those channels are relatively good. Now, what I mean when I say relatively good, I mean in a 365-day year, you want to make sure that you're able to get content from there at least 360 out of the 365 days. And service stability and uptime, basically what this is that it affects all the content that is being delivered to you. So if you're getting IPTV, know that you'll be getting live TV service for the most part, as well as on-demand services. So when it comes to service stability and uptime, it will affect both the live channels as well as the on-demand content, as well as any other service that's being passed or served through that server. So if that server goes down, then you get zero content. So be aware that not all the channels will work as you expect them to, because signals will drop, and keep in mind the time zone differences as well too. Because if you are owning IPTV services, then understand that the concept behind that is that you are able to use your box virtually anywhere in the world, which means that when we're sleeping at this side of the world, the opposite side of the world is awake. And there are many network stations that go off air at a certain time and resume in the morning. So we want to make sure that we are aware of those time zone differences, as well as when those channels go on air versus off air. So sometimes you will be here at, let's say, I don't know, 5 p.m. in the evening, and you're trying to watch a certain international channel, but you're not seeing anything there. It's not necessarily that the channel has dropped or that the signal is no longer there. It probably just simply means that that channel is off air. And that's really it. And to be quite frank, the truth is that there are those providers out there that just simply have bad management. So go ahead and do your research and ask all the questions that it is that you need to ask, and make sure that they're answered to your satisfaction. All right, so let's take a look at the cost. And I'm telling you from now, IPTV will save you a boatload of money. Now, when you take a look at the typical cable or satellite bill when it comes to service from the big guys, you're expecting to pay anywhere from $70 to about $120 per month for just about 200 channels or less. Now, most of us actually have a handful of channels that it is that we do watch. So when you do the math, you'll see exactly how much it is that you will save when you go to IPTV. Now, if you are looking to get IPTV services, what you can expect generally on average is to pay about $15 per month for the service. And at this price, it's typically pretty good. You know, it's many cases it is less stable. And one of the things that I did find out by experiencing some of this myself is that the communication with the service provider is usually non-existent or very poor. However, service providers that provide a much better managed system, as well as offer better quality service and communication, these guys, they'll charge about $20 to $25 per month for their service. And overall, you get a much better experience with your IPTV. You get your questions answered. They do have some kind of customer service and a more dedicated channel for communication. So before I wrap up this video, I'm just going to leave you with some lasting words. And I will say this: choose your service provider wisely. Now, there are many guys out there selling IPTV services. So the question is, which one do you choose? And my answer to that is, try to find the one or two that it is that you like the best, and find the providers who A, have a professional website that has clear, distinct information on it on what it is that you're going to be getting as far as the service, have a dedicated mode of communication, either that be a dedicated chat, a dedicated email, or some kind of phone number that it is that you could contact the service provider and ask them questions about your service, and get some kind of customer care service along with your IPTV as well. Make sure that they answer your questions to satisfaction, because I've experienced many times whenever it is that I try to reach out to certain content providers, they'll just reply with very, very vague and generic information, and it really didn't answer or help my cause for what it is that I originally wanted to ask about. And the last thing that I'll mention is making sure that they'll help you to get started from start to finish. And what I mean by that is, regardless of where it is that you purchase your box, whether it's from the service provider or from someplace else, they should have some kind of knowledge to help walk you through the process and how it is that you can get the service mounted onto your box. Now, there are very unique, different styles of IPTV services out there, so you want to make sure that you get a compatible system that works alongside the content provider that it is that you're choosing. And this is where asking questions come into play. So if you have a certain box, you want to make sure that you let the IPTV provider know which box it is that you have, and then from there, then they'll let you know whether the service is whether your box is compatible with their service or not. Other than that, you'll be kind of up the creek if you buy their service and your box isn't compatible with their service. So you really want to make sure that you ask all those questions, and a good sign of customer service is when they're willing to help you from start to finish to get set up on their service. So that's pretty much all what it is that I have for you in this video. So if you guys have any questions on whether IPTV is right for you or not, or any other questions in between, feel free to go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section below. Shoot us off an email and we'll be sure to answer your questions as best as possible. If you are looking to get IPTV services, there are some links laying around this video somewhere. If you're looking to get a IPTV box as well too, you could find a link around this video, click on it, and then it'll take you to the appropriate spots for you to be able to purchase these services. So again, that's it for this video, and make sure you guys stick around for all the other upcoming videos. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already, and that's pretty much it. This video is a wrap, and I'll catch you guys next time.